Good morning. We're looking at learning target H Retake Ticket and want to go over first with you the directions here at the top of your retake ticket. Kind of a four-step process. The first thing you want to do is always identify the angle you're looking for. We like to circle the angle that you're trying to find. Directly from there, you go across, you label opposite, adjacent, and the hypotenuse side, just like we did in learning target G. Next, then you identify the trig ratio needed to find the missing angle. Remember that you need to use two sides you know. That's a little bit different from learning target G because in this learning target, we're trying to find the angle. The angle is the unknown. So you've already got that. You have to then have two things you do know already, and for us, those are going to be the sides. To identify the trig ratio, you want to use SOHCAHTOA, just as we have in the previous learning targets. And from there, use your inverse and solve. So let's take a look at number one. We've got the measure of angle A that we are trying to find. I circle that angle. Across from angle A is my opposite. Immediately then I go to my hypotenuse, which is across from my 90. And my adjacent side is here. We don't know that side and we're not going to use that side, but it is a good habit to get into to label all three of your sides. So we look at this triangle and we try to figure out, well, if I'm trying to find A, I know opposite, I know hypotenuse. I don't want to use adjacent because that's an unknown. So if I look at this, I need to use OH. Check in with SOHCAHTOA. OH is your sine ratio. So you are going to set up the sine of angle A. There's our variable. Is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. This step is really quite the same as learning target G. It's from this point on, things change. In order to get rid of this sign, in order to undo what the sign is doing to this A, we are going to take the sine inverse of both sides. On your calculator, you are going to push second and then the sign button. If you are using your iPad, MyScript, you have to put an A in front of the sign, a little lowercase a. So you do lowercase a, sin, and then 14 over 26. What this does here is this cancels out, and so a is equal to the sine inverse of 14 over 26. And type that into your calculator. Should look like this. Hit enter and we find out A is 32.5789. We're going to try and round this to the first decimal place, the tenths place, and so A is equal to 32.6 degrees. And that would be the measure of angle A. Alright, on to number two. This time we are trying to find this little zero with a line through it is actually a Greek letter, theta. Right? Theta. And we use that in geometry. We use it to identify an unknown angle. Just like we use x a lot of times for a measure, we are using theta to get an angle measure. All right, we start here. Again, circle the angle you're trying to find. Across from that angle is opposite. Across from the 90 is hypotenuse, and again we'll label adjacent. Right? And again, looks like we're going to use our sine. So the sine, this time we'll put theta in, is equal to 9 over 15 of 9 over 15. Theta is equal to 36 22.9 degrees. All right, let's see. Let's use some of the other trig inverse functions. If we go down to, looks like this is mislabeled. Number 3, right? Number 3. Again, we're back to finding the measure of angle A. I circle angle A. I've got an opposite here. Across from the 90 is my hypotenuse, and this side is my adjacent. This time, we know adjacent and we know hypotenuse. So again, you have to go with the two sides you know. Opposite to us is not useful right now because we're looking for an angle measure. So we need to use the two we know. That's AH. That's going to be cosine. So ka toa. So the cosine of angle A is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. We are going to use an inverse, this time the cosine inverse, to undo that cosine. They cancel each other out, leaving us with just A is equal to the cosine inverse of 10 over 16. Second cosine, make sure you got that little -1, which stands for inverse. 10 divided by 16. And the measure of angle A is 51.3. Make sure that you practice entering this on your calculator to make sure that you are getting the correct values. If you do make a mistake and maybe don't hit that second button, here's your first answer. Cosine inverse, you can see, is 51.3. If you accidentally just do cosine of 10 over 16, 0.999, that doesn't really make sense for an angle measure. So if you're thinking about your answer, you can avoid some of the common calculator mistakes. All right, last question here, number 4. Again, we're back using theta, which is just a variable for an unknown angle. I circle that. Across is my opposite. Across from the 90 is my hypotenuse, and here is my adjacent side. So if looking at SOHCAHTOA, I've got opposite, I've got adjacent. I'm going to use tangent. The tangent of theta is equal to, opposite is 10 over adjacent is 24. Just like before, we're going to use an inverse to undo this trig ratio. This tangent and tangent inverse will cancel each other out. Theta is equal to tangent inverse of 10 over 24. And so plugging that into my calculator, theta is 22.6 degrees.